Welcome, and today we're going to talk about whether or not you think your mind is controlling you instead of perhaps the other way around. Now, the way to determine this during our few minutes together is I'd like you to get a note-taking device out, and I'm just going to read to you a few things here, a list of 7 items that I use to gauge whether my mind is actually controlling me. And why is it that we even want to do this? Well, the first thing is, in Eastern wisdom, is very, very important that we constantly be aware of how our thoughts are controlling our reality. And most of the time, the great majority of the time, our thoughts actually are controlling everything that we do or say out in the world. And so I want to supply you with some gauges as to whether or not this might be happening for you. So the first one is that the mind is always looking for problems. So when you go out in the world, your filter, your lens, is it about, wow, what an awesome, beautiful day. Look at everything around me. Look at the opportunities out here. Instead of, well, I didn't like the way he did that. And I don't like how cold it is outside. And there's a big problem with all the mess that's on my desk right now. And all those thoughts run through your head. You are a problem machine. You're seeking it like a missile. You know? And that's what your mind does. So I want you to just take even 10 minutes out of your day today and just notice, is your mind having thoughts about the constant problems? Now, granted, we do in our society get better at things by noticing the problems, but there's a second part to that. We only get better if we have solutions to those problems, right? We only get better if we actually act on those. But for the vast majority of the problems you are thinking about, you do nothing about them. Nothing. How do I know this? I am living it as well. I simply observe the problem and let it go, because you don't want 1,000 problems in one day, all centered on that original thought. So that's one thing. The mind is also a storyteller. So ask yourself, am I telling stories? Is one initial thought that I have in the day transmuting into a great big story about what just happened? So you might have someone say something on social media and you don't like it, and you think it's a personal attack on you, and suddenly you think of all the instances that you've had with that person, and you start to create a whole story about that particular comment in relationship to your relationship with that person. You see where I'm going with this? We create huge stories that may even be a completely innocent comment on the part of the other person, and even if it's not, can you train yourself to let it go and not tell a story? Third, the mind is judgmental, isn't it? We judge everything. Judge the color of something that people are wearing. We judge our toenails. We judge our smile. We judge the house next door for not having put their garbage away. We judge how much stuff people are buying at Costco in their big old shopping carts. We judge a lot of stuff, don't we? And it goes on. It is a running computer of judgment. That is our mind. All right? Now, how do we deal with that? Well, it's like anything else. You notice it. You can even laugh about it. Say, oh, look at that. There goes my mind making that judgment again. And when you laugh about it, it actually leaves you, and you are just more consciously aware of, again, opening the filter to what's possible, to the opportunities, instead of the judgments. Reactionary. Oh my goodness. The mind is so reactionary. So instead of accepting and receiving life and being present to life, almost every minute of the day, we can look at something and have a small trigger where we get upset about it and we start to react. Example that I like to give is you're in a Costco middle of the aisle and you see someone who has, you're vegan and you see someone who has 12 cartons of milk, jugs of milk, not even cartons, jugs of milk. And you're thinking, I am not one of these people. I'm going to leave. This is it. I'm leaving Costco. And you march off and your toilet paper is hanging from the bottom of your cart. And you leave because you say, no way, I'm not partaking in this ridiculousness anymore. That is reactionary, isn't it? But our minds do this all day long with all sorts of things. So just on a scale of 1 to 10, start to number these off, all the things that we just talked about. How is your mind doing on all these things? The storytelling and the judgment, the problems, right? Mark it off 1 to 10. And we're going to keep going. We got a couple more left here. So distracted. Is your mind distracted? So let's say that you have a lovely person in your life and they are moving away and you want to just write this heartfelt letter to them by email, or maybe it's audio and you want to send it to them. But suddenly you get a paper cut on your finger and that finger is hurting. And all you can think about as you're trying to write the letter is how much your finger hurts. It takes precedence, doesn't it, over your friend who's leaving and you will never see them again. This is what I'm talking about, everyone. The golden finger. The smallest thing, like a paper cut, can get us distracted from the most important things. Another thing is food. If you're in an important meeting in a boardroom and suddenly the muffins come in, is it not true that suddenly you have more attention and more meaning on those muffins than you do on this wonderful project that's about to go through and you have important things to say about it? But no, the muffins take precedence, don't they? So now I know I'm being a little bit funny here, but truly this is how our minds work. And take note, on a scale of 1 to 10, how easily are you distracted? Another thing is defensiveness. And we talked about this in another video about the importance of really receiving what's happening rather than repelling it with defensiveness or not wanting any sort of feedback. And so the more defensive you are, the more unhappy you are. This is very true. If you look at unhappy people, they generally tend to be very defensive because they feel in their life that safety means they have to protect their little box of awareness about who they are. And if you try to shake that box, you're going to get into trouble with them. And so is that you? Can you see in your own reality on a scale of 1 to 10 just how defensive you can get, right? And then the last thing is clinging to disturbances. So the mind generally tends to like the concept of clinging. This is very common in Buddhism, is the aspect of clinging to an initial thought. Now that thought could be a pleasant thought like, oh, somebody just told me that I look really good in this outfit. And then off your mind goes about possibly having a relationship with that person. And there it goes, and it clings to that beautiful thought, and you feel good. And, you might spend 10 minutes doing that instead of your work, whatever it is. But most of the time, our thoughts that are clinging to disturbances are more common. So the disturbance of, something someone said to you, or an email that you didn't like the way somebody phrased something, and suddenly, hours go by and you're still thinking about that thing. I always joke that, it's like, when someone in front of you is getting a sample, a food sample, and you really want it because you're hungry. You haven't had lunch yet, and the person takes not only one, but they take one for every person in their family. And then when you get in the front of the line, there's nothing there to be had, is there? And you are upset, and all you can think about is clinging to this thought for the rest of the day. So, how well do you do when you get disturbed? Are you able to let it go on a scale of 1 to 10? Practice these things, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit the button, the bell icon to receive our next upcoming notification of our video. And if you like this and you want more and be able to practice these things in depth, my book, The Tao of Influence, is coming out soon. If you go to KarenMcGregor.com, you can learn all about it.